Hi, I'm Shira from the Frugal Quilter, and today we're going to be talking about tools that you might find useful when you make quilts. First of all, when you are making quilts, there's a variety of cutting tools that can be very useful for you. Um, this right here is my favorite pair of scissors in the entire world. They are Guggenhein Scissors. They are actually tailoring scissors, but there are so many times when quilting when frankly you just need a good sharp scissor, and this is my go-to. Um, my oldest son surprised me with this pair of scissors not too long ago, maybe almost 2 years ago, and they are absolutely my most favorite pair I've ever had in my entire life. They are amazing. So it's always good to have a good pair of scissors. They don't have to necessarily be professional dressmaking, tailoring scissors, but a good pair of sharp scissors will help you out immensely. Now, the next thing that quilters typically use are rotary cutters. Some quilters use the large ones. I have, up to this point, I've never invested into a rotary cutter with a large blade. After all, I am the frugal quilter. It takes time to acquire these tools when you're doing it on a tight budget. These right here are old rotary cutters that I have. This one right here I use during the day on my day job because it is my best one. So that this one is reserved pretty much just for work related, although occasionally I get a little bit cranky with these because they don't work as good, and I'll pull this one out. This one right here no longer works, but the reason why I have it is for the pieces. Like, let's say if this piece right here, you know, the little pieces, I might be able to replace them and extend the life of these a little bit longer. So that's why I hang on to this, even though it's not useful, it's broken. These I still use. Now, for your rotary cutters, you've got to have rotary cutter blades, and you need the right size because they come in different sizes. These are how they come. Now, I just have this in a plastic bag, but they come in these little cases because rotary cutter blades are very sharp. And when you buy them, if you buy more than one, you're going to have to separate them, and do be careful. They are very sharp. Now, these are titanium blades that I bought, and the reason why I bought them was because, frankly, because they were cheaper. I'm not impressed. Now, I have seen some quilters on YouTube talk about how much they love their titanium blades in their rotary cutters. Maybe they have a different brand. I don't know. I'm not impressed with those. If I'm working on something with fabric that I want to be very careful that I don't mess it up, I do not use the titanium blades. Now, if I'm working on a scrappy quilt and if it doesn't cut exactly right and I mess up, a little piece here, there, and yonder, little tiny scraps, I'll use the titanium blades for that because I don't want to waste these. I mean, I bought them, so I want to use them. But the problem I have with it, for some reason, they kind of like start to go off course when I'm using them. I don't know if any of you have any suggestions as to why that happens. I'd love to know. It doesn't make any sense to me, but I'm not impressed, and I've never bought more ever since. This one right here is a pinking shear rotary blade. I don't have any pinking shears. There are scissors that you can buy that are pinking shears. I don't use pinking blades very often, but I do have this one just in case I need to have a pinking edge on something. Pinking is where it kind of has like a little tiny zigzag when you cut, if you have pinking shears or if you have a pinking rotary blade. And the purpose of the little teeny tiny zigzag to the cutting is to help the fabric to not fray quite as much. So once in a while, that's necessary. Now, another thing I do is I always keep one of the cases that I get blades in. And I use those to put the old ones in, and I label it. This is labeled, I don't know if you can see it on the camera. It's labeled used. So I keep an old case and I put the old ones in it, and then when it's full, I throw it away, because even though used rotary blades aren't nearly as sharp as the original ones, still, you want to have it protected when you put it in the trash. Let's see. Next thing. These are duckbill scissors. If you do applique, these are helpful. They look a little strange, I know, but they help you to get really close down in there when you are cutting out at the edges of applique. This right here, these are little tiny scissors. Now these I use at my machine all the time. Just clipping little threads, something this big is, I'm going to end up stabbing the machine, stabbing myself, stabbing the fabric. When I'm working right there close to the machine and I need to clip those little tiny threads, I just need something small. I've had this pair right here, I don't know, probably close to 20 years. They've never been sharpened and they still work great. These are Fiskars. I have bought some Fiskar items before that I wasn't too terribly impressed with, but this particular pair right here is absolutely awesome. This rotary cutter is also a Fiskars and has done very well. Now these are Alphas, and I've been very pleased with those, but these are they're just old is their problem. Now when you use a rotary cutter, you need specialized rulers. The purpose in having a rotary cutter is to get a very precise straight edge. So you line your fabric up and you've got your tools and it's very precise. Whereas if you're cutting, it's every time you do this action, you've got to line it up. Now these are great for dressmaking, and these are great for certain aspects of quilting, especially if you're going around curves and corners. I always use these if I'm going around curves on blocks or whatever I'm making. There are some quilters who use rotary blades to go around curves and go up into, when you're doing like precision type cutting. I don't trust myself to do that. Like, when I use a rotary cutter, I need a rotary ruler to properly guide me. But when I'm having to do like precision type cutting, if I'm fussy cutting, I want a good pair of scissors, and that's where these come in. Fussy cutting is when you've got a motif and you're trying to cut around it, and it might be a flower and you're trying to cut around all the little petals and stems and a variety of things. This is what I use for fussy cutting. But when I'm doing straight lines, I like to use a rotary cutter. And like I said, you have to have the proper type of rulers. This is a small one. This one I use every single solitary day in my day job, because as a general rule, I only need a small ruler and a rotary cutter because I'm working with small items. But with quilt making, this here is my go-to ruler. Don't know if you can see it. It's a yard long. It's clear, so it might be hard to see it. But it's a yard long, and this is for use with rotary cutters. It's actually, there was an edge here, and I don't know if you can tell, it cracked. And it didn't hurt the use of the ruler, but there was a little bit of a piece here and it cracked and fell off. I'd say about 15 years ago, maybe, I was moving from a 2-bedroom apartment to a 1-bedroom apartment, which is where I live today, is in that same 1-bedroom apartment. And some of my kids were participating in helping me move, as well as other family members. And my youngest son, I don't know, I probably said it several times telling them, be careful of this ruler. These rulers are expensive. And I've had it for, I don't know, at least 20 years. And I bought it with a coupon and paid like $30 for it with a coupon. Today, a ruler like this, I don't even want to guess what it would cost. But I kept, more than once, it was like, be careful with my ruler. Don't crack my ruler. And so finally, my youngest son, he named it Precious. He's like, that's precious. So I've been calling this rotary ruler Precious ever since. This right here is another rotary cutter and ruler in one. Now this actually was given to me by my husband. You line this up on the fabric, and you line this up here where you want it, and then you push down on this and it pops the rotary blade out, and then you do your cutting. So that's another one that you can look into using to assist you with your quilts. As far as scissors go, another item that I use frequently are if you're making rag quilts, it's helpful to have shorter scissors to cut through the rag quilts. Now these I bought years ago. These are used for snipping the rag quilts. They're short, so it's less likely. It assists you with not cutting through the seam, because obviously if you cut through the seam when you are ragging a rag quilt, then you've got to resew that seam. But these right here are spring-loaded. It has a safety latch on it. These are Fiskars. It has a safety latch on it, and you undo the safety latch, and as you can see, it has a spring in it, and they're spring-loaded. So it helps a little bit when you're cutting all those seams, because you don't have to, like with these here, even though these are designed for rag quilting, for cutting it all, you have to open it and close it, open it and close it, and it's extremely fatiguing on hands. But this here, you close it, but it actually, the spring loaded opens it for you, so that helps. It's kind of a little bit of a big blade though. I find I have to really be careful when I'm using it to not accidentally snip through the seam. If I cut through the edge, like not take it, that helps to ensure that I don't cut through the seam, but I also have to close down. I don't know if you can see. Then I have to close down on it more to cut it if I only use the tip for cutting. So to help save my hands when you're doing gobs and gobs and gobs and gobs of cutting, I'll be making a rag quilt soon. So if you're not familiar with this process I'm describing, I'll show you when I make that rag quilt. But if I have the fabric all the way up inside, then I only have to close it like halfway to cut those little pieces that I'm trying to cut to rag quilt it. So that saves on my hands, but it gets a little bit more risky as far as clipping through the seam and then having to take the whole thing back to the machine and resew that seam all over again. Some other tools that might be useful in quilting. This is actually a serger. Oh my goodness, I can't even think of the name of it now. Serger, what is it? Oh, good grief. Well, let's see here. Tweezers. Yes, there we are. Boy, I'm glad I didn't spend the next 5 minutes trying to figure that out. These are tweezers that are actually used for a serger. But I do find that it's helpful when quilting, sometimes when you are threading the machine and you can grab that piece and pull it to the back. It's a tool I just keep on hand. Now, other tools that are helpful with quilting, these are clips. Now, when I first started quilting, they didn't have clips like this. Now, these days, you can find them in all sorts of sizes. These are kind of small. They make them bigger. I don't have a whole lot of them, but I do like them. They are useful, like for holding two blocks together. You can just use clips instead of having to get out pins. It kind of saves times. It saves time, and it's faster to use, and you're not stabbing yourself like I frequently do if I'm using pins to hold blocks together. And speaking of using pins to hold blocks together, you want a lot of pins. Now I have a lot more than this. These are just some that are on this magnetic tray here. That's another useful item, is a magnetic tray. That way you can just put it right on there and it's less likely to fall on the floor, and then you end up stepping on it, and that wouldn't be fun. Now this works very similar to the clips I was just showing you. These are also for quilting, and I don't have a lot of these either, but every once in a while they help. They kind of look like the barrettes that girls put in their hair. They just snap, and it's the same principle as using the clips to hold blocks together while you're sewing it. Instead of pinning it together, you can clip it together. These are the exact same way. You just put the blocks in it and you snap it. And it's a lot easier, faster, less commotion than using pins. Now, sometimes you need to use the good old-fashioned pins, but these other items, I like to use them whenever I can. Now, after you sandwich your quilt, you're going to need to hold it together. These are quilting pins. They look like safety pins, to be honest. There is such a thing as quilting pins that are angled. I don't have any of those, but I have seen them, and I think it's supposed to make it a little bit easier to take the pin part and run it through all the layers of your quilt before you clip it. Let's see here. Got something else here. When you are doing the quilting process, sometimes you're trying to push your fabric through the machine. Sometimes you might be doing free motion quilting and you're taking your fabric all over the place from free motion quilting. And it's good to have something on your fingers that helps you grip it. Now, there are things that you can buy that are specifically made for that, to give you grip on the fabric. And there are gloves, there's things you can put on your fingers. I bought these years ago. These are for office work, like if you're doing a lot of paper work in an office and you need something kind of tacky on your fingers to help you deal with all of that paperwork. So this is actually an office item, but it was on sale. It was the right price. It was a lot cheaper than the specialty items for quilters, and I bought those and I put those on my fingers, and they work really, really good. They're silicone, so I guess they'll probably outlast me, to be honest. And when you are quilting, also when you use your rotary cutter, you've got to have a rotary mat. If you cut on your table, you're going to have a lot of cuts all over your table. You're going to ruin your surface. So rotary mats, here's a small one here. This one I use with my day job. I use the small one all day long, the small one, and a small rotary ruler with a rotary cutter. This one here is a bigger one that very, very much so is in need of replacement. Eventually I'll get it replaced, but let me tell you, I'm getting every mile out of this mat before I do that. There are other rotary rulers that you can also use. This is a rotary ruler. It's a little bit bigger, but not as cumbersome as the large one that I use so much with quilt making, because it fits on my large mat here. But if you've got something where you don't need a ruler quite that long as my 1 yard ruler. Here's a shorter one. It also has an angle. If you're doing angles, all sorts of, you will notice on these rulers that they have various angles, various degrees, 45 degrees, 60 degrees, to assist you when you're cutting out your pieces. Also on the mats, the rotary cutter mats also come with degree angles. This one here has 30 degree, 45 degree, 60 degree angles. All of this is to assist you when you're cutting out your pieces to make a quilt. This here is a large block. It is a 12.5-inch block. If you're cutting out large blocks like that, you can use this. It's already pre-measured for you. And so you just lay it down on your fabric. It's to be used with a rotary cutter, and then you just cut around. It also comes with the diagonals on it. If you are making a smaller block, you can see here, I've got a piece of tape here that I put on here at some time when I was making a block a smaller size. That was to help guide my eyes to find it. You can buy smaller blocks instead of using that, something like that, to come up with the right size square or block that you need. You can buy them in various sizes. I don't have a bunch of sizes. I just, again, when you're doing this frugally, you maybe aren't going to be able to buy every tool out there. But guess what, gals and guys, you guys quilt too, we don't need every tool out there. There are tools that are helpful. There are tools that are almost imperative, but we don't need every single gadget and every single tool that has been made for a quilter. And some of them aren't even worth the money. One of my favorite tools for cutting with a rotary cutter is this right here. This has the slots where you put it down on the fabric and you open up your blade. See, I had to open up my blade, and you cut right on down. So you can, like if you're wanting to make 6-inch blocks, you would cut on the 12, you would cut on the 6, come over here, cut on the 0. Then you can turn your fabric or turn your ruler. This right here has had a lot of miles on it. That's why you see painter's tape here, is because it's cracked and I'm holding it together. And again, these tools can be pricey. Even if you find them on sale, they can be pricey. So yeah, I use my tools until they just absolutely cannot be used. I get every mile out of them possible. There's a lot of things that quilters use that aren't made for quilting but work for us, like the painter's tape, masking tape. I use masking tape and painter's tape a whole lot when I'm quilting. I will actually put the tape on the fabric exactly where I want it to be, and then I go to the machine and I quilt it right along that tape. Then I remove the tape and I reuse it again on another spot to assist with the quilting process. There's other things that you can use. There are like guides and so forth that you can attach to certain type of feet to help you if you want to quilt a certain amount of space away. But those are sewing machine tools, and I'm not getting into that today. I just wanted to give you some ideas of some things that might be helpful to you if you're a beginner quilter or even an intermediate or advanced quilter. There might be some things here that you just hadn't thought of using. Maybe you had not realized that you could get something like this in the office supply section of a variety of stores or Amazon or whatever, and you're going to save yourself a lot of money when it comes to having something that'll give you some tackiness on your fingers to help you move the fabric or the quilt through the machine. If you have some suggestions for me, some ideas for me, things that work for you, I would love to know. I'm always open to learning about new ideas, new ways of using things. You know, a lot of times we quilters, we will use freezer paper. Some of you quilters are aware of that. We use it to make templates, we iron it down, we use it as a guide to cut things out. Maybe I'll do a freezer paper video at some point in time to show how that's used. I have made many a quilt by getting freezer paper and cutting out templates and then ironing it down on the fabric and like marking around it and removing the freezer paper, and then the marking is made on whatever shape that I had, and then cutting it out and using it as an applique on a quilt. There's so many things that we use that are not specifically quilting items. But if you have any tips, suggestions, items that can be used to help everybody with the quilting process, put them down in the comments below and let us know what you've discovered and what works for you, so that we can all help each other and share together. The things that quilters come up with are absolutely amazing. I mean, I learned about the freezer paper thing from other quilters somewhere along the way. I would have never thought of that on my own. So anyways, if you have anything to share, please share it. And if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and share it with other quilters, other people that you think might want to watch this video and some of my upcoming videos. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.